Good day everyone, welcome to ITS 300 Web Development 1. This is going to be a continuation to our discussion about CSS or Cascading style sheets. And please watch the entire video, listen and understand the lessons attentively. After this class, I will be posting an assignment related to our discussions. So if you can remember, I gave you an assignment to create an HTML web page containing your personal profile. And it is supposed to look something like this. So it's all very basic because it is all created using HTML. Now, for today's lesson, we are going to design this web page and let's try to transform this into something like this. So it's not really that much of an improvement, but this is just to give you an idea on how to use CSS in designing or formatting a web page. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. First thing that we're going to do is to, of course, create a website. So I've already created one in here. This contains the HTML or the index.html file and the CSS file as well. And then I've also included the pictures needed for our website. So let's take a look. I have here, of course, my profile picture and then some kind of a background picture, which we'll be using later on. Right? So first is we're going to open up our index.html. It doesn't have anything on it just yet, aside from the basic HTML structures, which right now you should be able to do so. And then if you have noticed, we already connected our CSS file to our HTML file. So if you can see, we used the link element, and then of course rel, which is our attribute. We use style sheet because we are supposed to link a style sheet, that's CSS, and then the location is in CSS folder, and then the file name is style.css. Now we're just going to test whether our CSS file is already connected. Let's just do a little bit of changes on our HTML file. So let's try to change the background color to something else. So let's say yellow. This is just a test whether our CSS file is already connected to our HTML file. Let's save that and then let's open it up and let's see. Alright, so since we can now see the difference, that means our CSS file is successfully connected to our HTML file. Well, obviously that is not what we want to do. The first thing we're going to do is we'll have to do something on our HTML first. And if you remember, the first thing that we have here is your name, the address, and your profile picture. We don't want to do that. We need to put something like a header, okay? And then for now, we're just going to include the title of our page, which is, in this case, I'm just going to name it My Profile. So to do that, let's go back to our HTML file, and then the first thing that we want to have is a header. Okay. Now, if you can remember, I asked you before to do an advanced research or study about HTML because, again, we cannot cover all of the HTML tags and elements in just one discussion because there will be a lot of tags to be discussed. So that's why I asked you to do a little bit of advanced study. So I'm expecting everybody has done so. And in that case, if I'm going to write some HTML tags here and there, I don't necessarily have to explain it thoroughly, per se. Okay. Alright, so again, we have the header. Of course, this means we are going to add some kind of a header, alright, to our web page. Alright, and inside the header, we're going to include a heading, of course, and then let's write My Profile. Okay, alright, after the header, we're going to add a section that will serve as the banner, okay? The banner usually contains advertisements and highlights for the website. In this case, we're just going to add our profile picture together with our name on it. Okay, so to do that, we'll have to create a section, and then let's call it banner. And then let's close that. Okay, now under the section, we're going to add a division. This is where we're going to put the actual picture and the name. So we will use the div element, and then let's call it name. And then let's close it. Alright, so what do we have inside our banner or our division? Again, we're going to include our picture. So we have image element, and then we'll use the src or source attribute, and then of course the location of our picture. So in my case, it is under the image or img folder, and then the file name is juleus.png. Okay, and then let me close that by adding the close img tag. Okay, and then after that, we're going to include my name. So I'm going to be using another heading, but this time it would be the lower heading, or smaller heading rather, and then which is h2. Let me close that with another h2. Okay, so far we're done with the header section. Of course, we're going to design that in just a few moments. Now the next is we're going to include this. So if you can remember, here we have the objectives, personal information, and professional skills. What we want is we want to divide these three sections into boxes. Okay, so what we want to do is we want the objectives to be placed in the left side, and then the personal information and professional skills will be placed with another box, and it should be placed on the right side. So how do we do that? Of course, we will going to add another section, and then let's call it boxes, just to keep it all simple. Alright, and then we're going to create a division for our profile. Okay, so let's use the div element, and then let's call it profile, and then let's close it. Alright, so what do we have under profile? So we have the personal information, right? So we have this. So in my case, I'm just going to share the gender, age, and birthplace. It's totally up to you. You can add more if that's okay with you. Alright, so how do we add this? We can use paragraph. So we'll use the paragraph element, and then let's say, and then let's just copy paste this. And then let's just add the closing paragraph in each ending. Alright, before we forget, we also have to add this title. So of course we'll be using header for that. So let's just move it one step down, and then we're going to add, let's say, an h3. That'll be a much smaller heading. Okay, alright. So next we're going to include the second section, which is professional skills. So same thing, we're going to add another h3. This is for our title, which is professional skills. Alright, so what do we do with this list? So what particular HTML element are we going to use? Of course, since this is going to be a list, we can use the list HTML elements. So since it doesn't have any numbers on it, so we'll use the unordered list. So to do that, we're going to use the UL. This stands for unordered list. Okay. Alright, so to write each list, we're going to use li element. Okay, and then let's just copy paste this. Alright, and then make sure that every line is enclosed with the list element. Alright, so I think that for now that will be it. We'll continue in just a moment. Alright, so let's try to open it up and let's see how it looks like now. Okay, so far it's not looking really good, but again, we're still working on our HTML. We'll be working with the CSS in the next topic. Alright, so a while ago we already connected our CSS file to our HTML file. So what do we do next is to of course start with the CSS formatting. So let's just make sure that this file is saved. Alright, then let's start. Now, what do we want to do first? Of course, we want the My Profile to be enclosed with a box and of course formatted with background colors and font colors. So to do that, we're going to use the CSS. So how do we call the header? Of course, we will use the element selector. We're just going to type header. This means all the header files on the HTML where our CSS is connected to will be applied to the following CSS properties. So first is we want the background color to be some kind of blue, something like this. Okay, so to do that, we'll be using the background color property, and then to set that into the color that I just showed you, the hexadecimal value is hashtag 0D2D6E. Okay, and then let's close that with a semicolon. Alright, and then next is we want the font color to be color white, because if the background color is already blue, then a text or a black text may not be as pleasing in the eye. It may not be very visible. So let's change the font color to, let's say, white. Okay, hexadecimal color for white is hashtag or hash FFFFF, or you can just write the color white. Okay, all right, next is we want to set a height for our header. To do that, we're going to say height, and let's give it about 70 pixels. Okay, so far let's try to see, how it looked like now. Okay, so right now it is showing that it has a background color, and then our text color is now changed to white. But if you have noticed, you can see margins outside our header file. So how do we get rid of that? First is we're going to call or select the body, and because by default the body the body element has its own margin and padding, so we don't want to do that. So we're going to set the margin to 0 and then the padding to 0. Okay, that means we just set the margin of the entire body to 0 from top, right, bottom, and left, and also its padding. So if we save that and then reload it, nothing should be in there. Okay, so we will work on the top part of the header. Right now it's still showing a margin, but we will work on that in just a few moments. For now, let's focus on our header. Okay, so next is we want the title to be at the center. Okay, to do that, we're going to use the text align property, and then let's center it. Let's save, and then let's reload. Let's see how it works now. Okay, so it is now at the center. However, it's still on the upper part of the header. So how to fix that? So we will set a padding for our header, and this will also fix the margin that is going on at the top part of our header. So let's do that. Let's say the padding top, let's set it to, let's say, 30 pixels. Okay, and this will give our header a space from the top and the text. So let's save this real quick, and then let's reload. Okay, so right now the margin at the top of our header is now fixed, and then we also created a space between the top part of our header to the text. The next thing that we're going to do is we're also going to add a padding at the bottom. This is to make sure, this is to balance the padding or the distance between the text and the top part of the header down to the bottom part of the header. So all we need to do is, of course, we're going to add padding bottom, and that is another 30px. That is just to keep things balanced. Okay, so I think the text is now perfectly balanced from the top and bottom. The only thing that we're going to do next is I want the font to be changed. So of course, we'll be using the font property. So to change the font property, we can either use font family. This will give us the option to change the font of our HTML element. Okay. However, if we are designing for a website, there are some fonts that are not available for on other computers. So to fix that, we're going to add a few font faces, and then the type of font face just in case the font does not exist in the computer. Okay, so first I want to set the font with a Century Gothic. Okay, however, if the computer doesn't have any Century Gothic, I want to use another font. To do that, we're just going to separate the other font using a comma, and then let's type in the other font. So let's just say whenever the computer doesn't have a Century Gothic font, we'll use Arial. Okay, so let's try to take a look on the difference between Century Gothic and Arial. If you have noticed, Century Gothic is enclosed with 2 quotation marks, but Arial doesn't. So why is that so? It's because whenever the font that you're trying to use has 2 or more words, you have to enclose it with double quotation mark. However, if the font that you're trying to include only has 1 word on it, then you don't have to. Okay? Alright, so we have 2 font faces now. So whenever the computer doesn't have Century Gothic, the computer will select the Arial. However, if there are no Arial and all of the fonts that you're trying to add is not available for the computer, we can just tell the computer to select any type of font as long as it could be either sans serif, serif, and many more. I want the computer to select any sans serif. By the way, sans serif is a type of font, and you should have learned about it with your graphics and visual computing lesson or course last semester. Alright, so let's save that and then let's open it up. Let's see if there are any changes. Okay, so right now, since my computer has Century Gothic, that's why it selected Century Gothic. Okay, I'd like to add a little bit of design on it. I want to add a line at the bottom of the header. So how do we do that? We will use the border style property for our header. We just want to set it at the bottom of the header. So to do that, we're going to say border bottom. Alright, so we can set the color to, let's say, E8491D. Okay, and we want it to be, let's say, 5 pixels thick, and it must be a solid border style. So let's save that and then let's reload. Okay, so we have a border line at the bottom of our header now. So the next thing we're going to design would be the banner. So let's open up our Notepad++ again, and then this time let's call the section banner. Alright, so how do we do that since this is a class? So we will type period and then the class name, which is banner. The first thing that we're going to do is we want to set the height to be, let's say, 400 pixels. So let's say height 400 px, and then this time I want to add a picture as the background. So to do that, we will use the background or the background image property, and then to locate our image, we will use the URL value, and then open and close parentheses, and then open and close double quotations, and the location of the image. The image is located inside the image folder, which is banner.jpg. Supposedly, I'm going to write here the folder name, okay, and then the file name. That would be banner.jpg. If you have noticed, our CSS file is enclosed inside another folder which is called CSS. So what do we want to do is we want to tell the computer to go outside from the CSS folder before going into the image folder. Okay? Since the CSS and the images are separated with different folders. So how do we do that? Again, we're going to tell the computer to go outside the CSS folder. To do that, we're just going to add 2 dots and then a slash. This will tell the computer to go back 1 folder outside the file. Okay, so let's save that and let's see if there are any changes. Okay, so we're able to locate the image and now it serves as the background of our banner. So we're going to fix that in just a moment. Alright, so next thing that we're going to do is we want the background size, since if you have noticed the picture is a lot bigger than it is supposed to. Okay. This is the overall picture, but we can only see this part. It's because this image is just too big. So we want to make sure that the picture will fit on our screen. To do that, we're going to use the background size and let's give it 100% view. Let's reload. Alright, so we can now see most of the picture because we just set it to fit the screen size. Next thing that we want to do is we want our name. Of course, we're going to fix that. We're going to change it to another font, and then we'll also be aligning it at the center of our screen. So to do that, we will use the text align again, and then center, and then let's change the color to white. Alright, and then let's save. Alright, so we've just centered our picture and the text. And then the next thing that we're going to do now is, of course, work with our margins. As you can see, or the padding, since as you can see, there are no space from our picture and to the top of the header. So we want to fix that. We don't want that. We want the picture to be at center. And of course, just make it a little bit better. Alright, so let's try to give our banner a few padding. So we have padding top. Let's give it, let's say 10 px, and let's see how it looks. Alright, let's increase it a little bit. Let's say 20. Alright, let's increase that a little more. How about 40? Alright, that's it for now. We'll get back to it later on. Now, what do we want to do next? Okay, I want the picture to be a circle instead of a square. So how do we do that? We have a square picture right here. So we can either edit it using Photoshop, but we don't really want to do that. We're just going to use CSS. So next is we're going to call that particular image, and then we will going to change its border radius. And that way we'll be able to create a curve. And if we just make the curve in a certain point where when the curves are connected to each other, it will form a circle. So to do that, first is we're going to call the image. So to call the image, we're going to say image, but the image is inside the name division. So it would be better if we're going to call the name first, or the division name. Okay, and then space image. That means it will select only the image inside the name division or the class name. Alright, so let's open it up and then let's change the border radius to 50%. Okay, creating a 50% border radius on a square creates an illusion that the picture is a circle. So to do that, let's check. Let's save, and then let's reload. Alright, so we created 50% in this side. We have created 50% on this side, and this side. Now combining all of these curves, it looks like our picture is now circle. Alright, so the next thing that's left now is we want to change our name to a Century Gothic font. So to do that, we're going to call the H2, which is under the division name, right? Again, same thing that we did with the image. We will call the H2 inside the class name, and then let's change the font family. So we're just going to copy this, and then let's paste it right here, save that, let's check. Alright, okay, so that's pretty much it for now. Next is we're going to work with our personal information and professional skills. First is we want the objectives, which I haven't included yet. Apologies for that. I'm going to add it now. Again, the objectives must be located in the left side, and then the personal information and the professional skills will be placed at the right side of the screen. So how do we do that? First is, of course, we're going to add our objectives real quick. So we're just going to copy this. Okay, and then under the profile division, we will create another division, and then let's call it, well, objective. And then let's close that. All right, so same thing, let's add an H3 containing the title, which is objective, and then a paragraph that contains our objective itself. Okay, so let's check if it is now in our HTML file. Alright, so it's right here. Don't you worry if it's located at the bottom, we can fix that in a moment. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create boxes for these sections or divisions. Okay, so first is let's create a box for our profile. So to do that, of course, we're just going to call the class profile, and then we want the profile to have 70% of the entire screen. So we will use the width, and then let's set it to 70%. It will only use 70% of the entire screen, regardless of what type of screen are you using. It could be a phone, a tablet, or personal computer, or laptop computers. Okay, and then for now, let's set the height to let's say 100%. That means it will cover 100% of the entire screen. Okay, and then let's just set the background color to, let's say, yellow. Now it will not look good, but this just for the sake of the discussion, we're just going to type yellow in there. Now next is we're going to create a box for our objective division. To do that, let's call the objective class, and then let's set the width to, as you've guessed it, 30%. So we have 30, we have 70. That is about 100% of the entire screen if being combined together. And then let's set the height to still 100%. That means it will automatically cover 100% of the entire screen. And then let's just set the background color to, let's say, blue. We'll work on it in a moment. Alright, so I just realized that instead of class, I put name on it, so apologies. Let's change that to class. Let's save that. Alright, and then let's see how it looks now. Let's reload. Okay, so we have here two different boxes, and it's got its own color now. However, if you have noticed, we want our personal information to be located at the right side, and the objectives should be somewhere here. So to do that, we'll be using the float property. The float will allow you to transfer any elements from right or left of the other element. Okay, so we would like the profile to be located at the right, so of course we'll be using float and then right. Let's save that, and then let's reload it. Okay, so it's looking better now. Alright, so the next thing that's left now is we want to add a footer that contains the links. Alright, so to do that, we're going to open up our HTML file, and then under the section, we will add a footer. So, of course, we will use the footer element. Usually, footer contains the copyright indication or any other related elements or contents about the website. So, again, we will include a footer element, and then inside the footer, let's just create a paragraph that says designed by, and then let me put my name in here. Alright, and then let's just add copyright 2021. So to add a copyright symbol, we will type and copy, and then a semicolon, and then 2021, and then close the paragraph. Let's see how it looks like. Let's reload our page. Alright, so we have here designed by Juleus or Publico, and then the copyright symbol 2021. So of course we don't want to make it look just like that. We want to add something to it. So first is we're going to call the footer on our CSS file. So to do so, of course, we'll call it using our element selector, and then we want the background color to be, let's say, red. Okay, red, and then let's set a padding from top to bottom with 20 pixels. So let's add 20 pixels all around, and then the text alignment must be at center. Since our background color is now dark, which is red, we would like to change the text to white. So we will put color property, and then let's change it to white. Okay, let's open it up. Let's see how it looks like now. Alright, so it's looking better, but it's still located at the right side of our page. But we want it to be, I want to put it in at the bottom of our screen, just like what normal footers do. So to do that, we're going to set the margin at the bottom to be 0 pixel. That means it will be fixed at the bottom of the screen no matter how you're going to scroll your web page. So let's say bottom, and then let's put 0 in there. Alright, so let's check, let's see how it looks like now. Let's reload. Alright, so we have here the footer, and since we just set it to 0px at the bottom, that means regardless if you're going to scroll it up or down, it will stay at the bottom even if you're going to zoom it in or zoom it out, it will stay at the bottom. Okay, so it's looking pretty good now. However, this is not going to be the end. We want to fix something else. Next is we want to change the font family again to Century Gothic. For us to apply it in both divisions in one go, then we have to apply it on our section boxes. As you can see, the division profile as well as the division objective are all belong to the same section. So we're just going to call the section in here. So that is dot boxes, and then let's add our font family. We're just going to copy this and then paste that, save. Alright, it will automatically change the font family from the default, which is Times New Roman, to Century Gothic in one go. Now, let's try to check. So far it's looking good. Now, this is what I meant with 100%. So the entire section is, since we set it to height is 100% for object and profile, both the object and personal information covered the entire screen. So if we don't want to do that, we can always decrease that into, let's say, 80%, and then 80%. In that way, we will decrease the size of or the height of the division. So it's no longer covering the entire screen, but covered only 80% of it. Okay, next is, of course, we want our name to be linked into our personal, let's say, personal Facebook account or YouTube account, regardless of what you want. So of course, we're going to do that in our HTML. So I want my name to be linked to my personal Facebook account. So we're going to use the A or link element, and then href, and then the location. So since it's going to be in the internet, we will add http and colon / and then fb.me/Juleus Publico. That is the link to my Facebook account. And then let's close it right after my name. Alright, however, what's gonna happen is that the link will change the text decoration. So as you can see, my name now is color blue and with an underscore to it. We can change it to blend with the rest of the text. And to do so, we're going to call that in our CSS file. So we have footer and then A. That means we'll only call the A or the link inside the footer section. And then let's see, the text decoration is none. That means we are going to remove the text decoration, which is the underline, and we want to change the color to or back to white. Let's save that. And alright, so it went back to its original state. However, it doesn't look like it's a link, so we need to add a little more dynamic to it. To do so, let's just make the letters bold. To do so, we're going to add strong element and then /strong. Okay, this will change my name with big letter. Okay, next is we want to change the font family to the same fonts that we've been using for the entire web page, to just to keep it consistent. So we're just going to add it inside the footer section. Let's paste it right there, and then let's save, let's reload. Alright, so that will be it. So for your assignment, you're going to do the same with your web page. So you don't have to worry about the colors. It's totally up to you what colors you will be using, what font you'll be using, so long as you're able to change it from your original design to a new one using CSS. Now, you don't necessarily have to copy my design. Of course, you can design it on your own. You can choose however you're going to design it, okay? And then I will also be uploading the source code of my web page to our respective Google Classrooms. Okay, thank you so much for making this far in the video. Keep yourself safe, and God bless us all.